You know, when you think of North Korea, you probably get a pretty specific picture in your head, right? A country that's kind of stuck in time, super isolated, probably uniformly poor. But what if I told you that just a 3-hour drive from Pyongyang, there's a luxury ski resort, one that people on TripAdvisor have rated 4.5 stars? It's a real place, it's called Masik Pass, and its very existence, well, it pretty much challenges everything we think we know about the Hermit Kingdom.
Okay, so let's just get right into it, because this is the big mystery, isn't it? How on earth does a place like this, with all its modern, fancy amenities, even get built, let alone operate, in a country that's almost completely cut off from the global economy?
The story of Masik Pass, you see, it isn't really about snow and skiing. It's actually a window into this strange kind of jury-rigged economic machine that explains not only how the country's elite get to live this life of luxury, but how the entire regime manages to just hang on.
So first, let's take a look at what we're actually talking about here. Because this isn't just some flimsy propaganda set piece. This thing is the real deal.
And the scale of this place is what's truly mind-boggling. I mean, we're talking a 120-room luxury hotel, 11 different ski runs, 4 lifts, a swimming pool, a sauna, and, of course, you gotta have a karaoke room. To get it all up and running, they had to import snowmobiles from China and fancy chairlifts all the way from Austria. This is a full-on, legitimate luxury experience.
And this is where you get a sense of the, let's call it, creative logistics they needed to build this place. It was not easy. At one point, a Swiss company refused to sell them chairlifts because of sanctions. So what did North Korea do? Their official response was to call it a serious human rights abuse. It's just this bizarre, but really telling detail that shows you how absolutely determined they were to get this resort built no matter what it took.
All of which brings us to the most obvious question of all. If you build a giant luxury resort in the middle of North Korea, who in the world actually comes to ski?
You'd probably guess it's for, a handful of foreign tourists, maybe some high-ranking government officials, right? Well, the reality is a whole lot more surprising.
So yeah, some foreign tourists do show up, but the slopes? They are overwhelmingly filled with North Koreans. And not just any North Koreans. We're talking about a brand new, rising class of domestic elites who have somehow managed to get seriously wealthy.
Reports from people who've left the country paint this picture of a Pyongyang that sounds less like the capital of a failed state and more like, well, a mini Dubai. We're talking cafes packed with people tapping away on tablets, teenagers cruising around in BMWs and Mercedes. These are the people skiing at Masik Pass, the direct beneficiaries of this weird, taped-together economic system.
And that, of course, brings us to the next massive question. Okay, a new wealthy class. But where is all this money actually coming from? Seriously, how can a rich class of people even exist, let alone thrive, in a nation under some of the most intense international sanctions on the planet? Well, the answer is hidden in this huge, unofficial gray market that operates just beneath the surface of the official state economy.
At the very heart of this is a policy called the August 3rd Rule. Now, officially, private business is totally illegal. But this rule creates this kind of state-approved loophole. Citizens can actually pay a fee to get out of their boring assigned state job. And it frees them up to start their own businesses, selling anything from Russian cigarettes to Chinese beer, as long as the state gets its cut. It's basically capitalism with a cover charge.
And don't think this is some small fringe thing. A survey of North Korean defectors revealed that a staggering 62% of them had worked in this unofficial gray market. So it's not a sideshow. For a whole lot of people, this is the economy.
And it's not just individuals either. The state itself is a huge player here. Let's say a government or military department needs money. What do? They just start their own company, a trading firm, a construction business, you name it. Then they use the national military as their own personal workforce to build these massive state projects, just like they did with Masik Pass.
So when you start putting all these pieces together, the fancy resort, this new rich class, the whole shadow economy, a really clear picture starts to emerge. None of this is an accident. It is all part of a very deliberate strategy for survival. What this system has created is basically a country of two completely different realities. On one hand, you've got the showcase North Korea in Pyongyang, with its tall buildings, bright lights, and ski resorts. But drive just a few minutes out of the city and you find the other North Korea, these sprawling, dark fields with maybe some flickering electricity if you're lucky. So the regime stays afloat using this clever combo of tactics.
First, it manages to stay pretty self-sufficient. Second, it's an absolute master at playing superpowers like China and Russia against each other to get aid and support. And third, and this is the crucial part, it lets this new wealthy class exist. Why? Because you give them a taste of luxury and you make sure they stay loyal and have a real stake in keeping the system exactly as it is.
And that, right there, is the real reason the Masik Pass Ski Resort exists. It is so much more than just a hotel. It's a monument to the regime's survival. It's a bribe, it's a reward, and it's a symbol, all rolled into one, designed to keep the people who benefit from the system happy, loyal, and totally unwilling to rock the boat. At the end of the day, this ski resort is the perfect window into that jury-rigged machine. It shows that even under near-total isolation, this bizarre mix of shadow capitalism, state control, and just the basic human desire for nice things can create something that looks, from the outside, almost normal.
It proves that this little bubble of isolated luxury might just be the regime's most effective survival tool. And that leaves us with one final, pretty big question. What other impossible structures, whether they're economic or social, are out there right now, quietly keeping the world's most unlikely systems afloat?